Jersey, Rhode Island. Awesome. All right, looks like we're live. Welcome everybody. My name's Kathleen Jasper. I am with Nava Ed. I'm just going to put a couple things in the description here so you can access some of the things we're going to be talking about. So give me just 1 second. I'm going to edit the video. Talk amongst yourselves in the comments. Let me know that you can hear me, see me. And I'm just going to give you a couple of links in the description so that you can access what we're talking about if you haven't already accessed the webinar links and all of that. Okay, looks like we're live. Looks like everything is good to go. And yep. Great. Okay, we got everything. All right, so my name is Kathleen Jasper. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys today. I am going to be going through the Praxis Core writing exam. Very excited about that. We have so many people who need help in the writing department, and it's totally understandable because it's a really difficult task. So at Nava Ed, we have kind of built a formula that really helps people. Let me bring my mic. This is probably better. Yeah, that's probably better. We've built a formula so that you can use that when you go into test day and, you know, crush the exam just by using some of these simple methods that we use when we teach our students. So today we're going to be focusing on the Praxis Core writing exam. And I know a lot of you are from Florida and you're trying to pass the GK exam, but the methods that I'll be going over today can be applied to any writing exam, okay? So that's really, really important to know because sometimes we get caught up on looking for the exact prompts or looking for exact this or that. And what happens is you sell yourself short a little bit because if you end up getting a different prompt on test day, then you studied this one prompt the whole time, you may not do as well as you thought you would do. So I'm going to show you how to tackle any writing scenario. We are focusing on Praxis Core today, but you can apply everything I am saying to any writing exam, okay? So I know a lot of you are here from all over the place. We've got Tennessee, Rhode Island, Miami, Bonita Springs, near where I live. People all over the country are here today. So we're very, very excited to be with you. So again, my name's Kathleen Jasper with Nava Ed. We're going to get started on the Zoom link. If you are watching us on Zoom and you registered, Nicole Zelinka is also a panelist. So if you see her answering your questions because I can't get to them, then just know that she's with us. Also, I am recording this in 3 different areas. I'm recording it on Facebook, YouTube, my MacBook, on a camera. And so if anything happens, if we go down, if the internet drops, if you cannot access it for any way, please know that it will be available, that no matter what, this webinar will go on and you will gain access to that. I put the links in the description on Facebook so that if you wanted to access the handouts that I'm talking about, you can do so. I am going to project them on the screen, so don't worry. But later, if you'd like to access those handouts, you can do so by simply clicking the link in the description and accessing it there through registration and all of that, okay? So if you don't have any questions, we will get started. Let me know in the chat how you're doing. And then also, if you have any tech problems or anything like that, the chat really isn't the best place to tell me about it because there's really nothing we can do. The chat is really for you to talk with your fellows and help or give any insights that you might have. We would, certainly welcome that. But if you're having internet problems, if sound is going out, if you can't see or something like that, there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. But just know that we are recording in all areas, so you will gain access to this webinar, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys very quickly here. And you should be able to see my presentation here. Let me know that you can see the presentation okay. It says Praxis Core Writing, and it looks like everybody can. Very good. So let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about Praxis Core Writing, but the writing scores combined, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But basically what we're going to be focusing on is the production piece. And what that means is that we're focusing on the essay or the writing. For Praxis, the writing score, and I'll just go ahead and jump to this, the writing score is your multiple choice on the grammar plus the essay points. So that's good news for some people, because if you are not so strong in your writing, then you can rely on your, just turn off my phone. You can rely on your multiple choice. And if you're not so strong in the multiple choice, if you lose some points in the grammar section, multiple choice, and you were stronger in the essay, it'll pull your score up. But for GK people, for Florida Teacher Certification people, it's a different game. Your essay score is separate from your multiple choice. But for the Praxis, and again, we're talking about Praxis today, for the Praxis writing exam, it's the multiple choice plus the essay. So we want to bank as many points as we can on this essay, because it'll help pull up the multiple choice, and vice versa. We're going to be doing more webinars on Praxis, and I'll be talking about those at the end of the webinar. But the essay, the multiple choice, if you can gain some points there, and maybe writing is not your strong suit, then that multiple choice section will pull up your essay. But today we're going to be focusing only on the actual writing of the essay. So that's going to be the focus of today's discussion, okay? So let me talk to you a little bit about the way this is scored, because I think lots of people want to know, how's my essay scored? How do I know if I passed and all of that? So on the, and let me just go ahead and stop sharing really quickly. On the Praxis Core writing exam, you have to do 2 essays. You have to write an argumentative essay in 30 minutes and a source-based essay in 30 minutes. So this is a very difficult task. And so you've got to be concise. You have to have a plan. You can't just go in and try to wing it. You got to practice this skill, because it's really hard on test day. So what I'm going to show you today is how to do things quickly, concisely, and thoroughly, so you can get the points you need. Now, 2 essays. The first is the argumentative, and the second is called the information or the source-based essay. We are going to go over both today, so you'll have a very good understanding about both. Now, if you are a general knowledge person, and I see a lot of people asking, what about general knowledge? What about general knowledge? We're doing Praxis Core essay today. It's a different task altogether. However, the skills in building the essay are going to be the same for any writing task. That's going to help you out a lot. So just follow along, and it's not going to have anything to do with the advantages and disadvantages essay. It's not going to have anything to do with the general knowledge essay. This is a different task, but the skills that I'll be going over will help you. So I see a lot of people asking, what about the English 612? What about this writing exam? This will help you with that, but we are not going to be specifically talking about English 612. This is for Praxis Core writing, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is turn off my notifications, which I forgot to do before I started, which is bad practice. All right, here we go. So let me go back to sharing screen. Hope that clears things up for you guys about what we're going to be talking about today. Now, for the Praxis Core, the first essay you'll get is the argumentative essay. And this is the little graphic in our Praxis Core book that I like to use. Let me switch my color to a darker color, because I'll be drawing on white. So in the argumentative essay, you have 2 graders initially. The first grader is going to be a human being. A human being is going to read your essay and give you a score from 1 to 6. We'll talk about, how you get an adequate score in just a second. The other person or non-person who's reading your essay is going to be a computer. Okay. The computer is basically for the argumentative essay. It's programmed. I don't know. I'm not ETS. We don't know what program they use to grade the essay, but with the human grader and the computer grader, it's supposed to reduce bias. And to be honest, testing companies use computers because it's cheaper to grade things. You got to pay humans to grade essays. You don't have to pay a computer. So if these two resources, if the human and the computer agree within 1 point, your essay is scored and that's it. So if the human grader gives you a 4 and the ETS computer gives you a 3, they've agreed within 1 point. So you got a 4 and a 3 from these two graders, okay? Now they combine the scores and use a scale score, and it's really complicated. It's a little different from the GK FTCE, but just know that these scores will be combined with your multiple choice to give you an overall writing score, okay? Again, we're not talking about the multiple choice today. We're just talking about the writing. Now, let's say that the human gave you a 4 and the computer gave you a 2. Well, then they did not agree within 1 point. And so they bring in another human grader here, and that person is the tiebreaker. Okay. So that's how it works with both, or no, that's how it works with the argumentative essay. With the source-based essay, we'll go over that in a minute. It's 2 humans. Okay. It's 2 human beings grading your essay. So it's important to understand that. Now, I don't know how efficient the computer is on grading it. I'm sure that they've invested a lot of resources and time into their computer graders. You just kind of got to go with it and make sure that you write the best essay you possibly can so that you can get the scores you need to pass the writing exam. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now, what we want to shoot for is a 4. And this is similar to the FTCE general knowledge essay. You want to shoot for competence. Now, because we're trying to bank points and because we're trying to, get as many points as we possibly can combined with the multiple choice, we want to make sure that we are trying to get as good of a score as we possibly can. But a score of a 4 is considered competent. So that is, the rubric that I want to focus on today. Remember, we're not trying to write the next great American author. We're not trying to compete with other authors and be a Pulitzer Prize winning author. We just need to pass the test and move on with our lives. So to be competent in this area, in the rubric, it states that you have stated or implied your position or thesis. Your thesis has to be cleared. And in fact, I don't even want you to imply it. I want you to state it very, very, very clearly. I want you to put yourself in the position of the test makers, the test graders, right? How many English teachers do we have out there? How many middle and high school English teachers do we have out there? What does your life consist of? Grading boring essays, terrible essays, right? So it's really, really difficult to sometimes find your student's thesis statement, find your student's support for the thesis. I'm saying this because I was an English teacher. And when I was an English teacher, you got to go around the world to find out what the kid is trying to say, when really you just want the student to be as direct as possible, right? So you're going to want to state your thesis as clearly and directly. Do not even imply it, state it. And I'm going to show you how to do that when we get into the formula. Also in the rubric, it shows control in the organization. That means you're not all over the place. You're focused. You have definitive paragraphs that describe certain things, and you are not out in la la land trying to piece together, abstract concepts. It's very clear, concise, and you have control. Okay. Offers some key ideas and details. Those are the examples, and they are key. You have to use things like, for example, and, for example, in addition, such as. Those words are going to trigger the reader to know that you are going to give a specific detail. We'll talk more in depth about that when we actually write the essay, and I am going to write an essay with you today. But We want to make sure that it's not just abstractions out there like, oh, you know, technology in the classroom is important. It's important because students like it and teachers can use it to better their instruction. All that is abstraction. Give me tangible details, and I'm going to show you what those look like in a second, okay? Then the next bullet is displays adequate use of language. That is your grammar. Now, I know a lot of instructors out there say, don't worry too much about your grammar. It's not about your grammar. And that is terrible handwriting. Please hold. I'm trying to practice my handwriting because normally I type things all day long and then I get online with you guys and I have to write. And then I go back and look at my presentations. I'm like, that is terrible handwriting. So I'm working on it. But your adequate use of language is your grammar. Watch it. Because if I'm grading your essay and you have bad grammar, I'm going to be distracted by it. And you never know who's grading your essay. It could be, you know, a high school English teacher. It probably is a high school or middle school English teacher. And he or she may be a stickler on certain things. Remember, this is graded by a human, so it is subjective. For sure. They try very hard to remove the bias. They try very hard to make it as equitable and fair as possible. However, there have been numerous studies about essay exams, and it shows that implicit and explicit bias are certainly present when we're grading these exams. So take out as much bad things in your essays as you can. Make it clear, concise, and good grammar. It does matter. Good grammar matters, 100%. And we will be doing further webinars in the next couple of weeks to help you with that. And I also have a ton of grammar videos on our YouTube channel that will make you a grammar expert in no time. So don't worry about that. And then we have shows control of grammar usage and mechanics, but may contain some errors. You can have some errors and still get competence, still receive your competence grade. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is a 30-minute essay for argumentative, and you don't have spell check and you don't have grammar check. So they know that you're going to make one or two mistakes. But if it's riddled with grammar problems, it's going to be an issue. And then also this adequate use of language here, that also includes sentence variety so that your essay kind of has a flow to it. It's not robotic. You're using different words and things like that. And it helps the reader to enjoy the process of reading your essay. Okay. All right. So let's move forward and go through the steps. Okay. So listen, we have helped, let me just push this in there. We have helped thousands and thousands of people pass their writing assessments. So when I tell you this formula works, I am being totally sincere with you. Okay. Now you are going to write this essay out of order. All right. You're writing out of order. Good writers write out of order. They don't start from once upon a time, the beginning of the story, and then they go all the way to the end without ever moving things around or changing things. For this essay task, it's going to help you a lot to write out of order. You're going to do certain things first. And this goes for the general knowledge exam as well. This goes for the Praxis core argumentative, and it goes for the general knowledge essay. So we always write out of order. I'm a writer. I'm telling you, writers write out of order. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do, which is probably the most important thing, is to type your thesis statement. You need to take a position. We'll talk about it when we see the prompt a little bit more, but you need to have a definitive thesis statement. Okay. Because it's very, very, very important that the reader knows exactly what you're trying to say. You do not want it to be a scavenger hunt for your thesis statement. I'm going to give you definitive examples in a minute. Then you're going to map your essay. This is where you use your notepad very quickly to jot down ideas and keep yourself organized. Now, I know this takes time, but this small preparation detail on the front end is going to save you a ton of time at the end. If you try to just write, you're going to have problems. And I don't mean map your essay where you write like all these different things, and it's like a thesis, or it's like a, midterm analysis or a dissertation, right? But you have to at least do some bulleted points, and I will model that for you, okay? Then you're going to write the detail paragraphs. You have not written your intro yet. You've only mapped your essay. Then you're going to go straight to the details. Detail paragraphs are easier to write because they're more specific. You've already mapped your details because the map contains what you're going to talk about. So you already have your details and you're going to put those down on paper. The bulk of your essay is graded on the details paragraphs. People rarely fail this test because of the intro or the conclusion. Usually the problems happen in the body paragraphs, okay? So we wanna make sure you start with the body paragraphs so you can get all those down, and we wanna proof them really, really well. And that brings me to step 4. Proof your body paragraphs before you go on to write your intro and conclusion. Why? Because the bulk of the essay comes from, or the bulk of the grade comes from the essay portion or from the details portion. So you want to make sure those 2 detail paragraphs or 1 detail paragraph is nice and tight, no grammatical errors, your spelling is good, and it's, well written and all of that. Then once you've done that, then you're going to write the intro and then you're going to write the conclusion. Now your intro and conclusion are going to feel repetitive because you're writing them out of order. You're actually writing them, you're writing the intro, then you're writing the conclusion. But when you pop those body paragraphs in between, it will not read in a redundant manner. It will not read repetitively. It will read in a nice way because you'll have your intro at the top, then you'll have your body paragraphs, then you'll have your conclusion at the bottom. And even though your intro and your conclusion say kind of very similar things, it's going to be broken up with the details in the middle, and you'll be able to, break up that monotony. All right. And then the final step, hopefully you have time to do it, is to proofread your entire essay to make sure you haven't missed anything. This is not the time to add any new details. I see this a lot. In the conclusion, you decide, oh, I forgot this one thing. Let me go ahead and add it. No. You're already in the conclusion. We're not adding anything, okay? So make sure you're good to go there, all right? So let's move to the argumentative essay prompt. Now, if you're a general knowledge person and you're not a Praxis person, you should still practice this. This will help you with your writing. So it will definitely help you. So just, this 2 more prompts that you can use when you're working towards your essay. All right, so you will most likely get a prompt for the argumentative essay on the Praxis exam that is very opinionated. Let's take a look at this one. The use of technological devices in classrooms should be banned. This should say in classrooms, should be banned because students are distracted and spend the majority of their time on social media. Now, you guys are all educators, most of you anyways, and you know that this is a pretty direct statement. It's missing some nuances and things like that, and it's not giving you the whole story, and it's certainly taking a very definitive position without talking much about some of the other things. But this is how it's going to be presented. You're going to be given an argument, a very argumentative prompt that's going to be very opinionated. And so it's going to be easy for you to take a position. Now, of course, I'm going to take the position that I disagree. So that's what I want you to do when you go in on test day. You read this prompt and you say, I disagree. Now, as teachers, you probably agree and disagree. You probably want technological devices banned when you're up giving a presentation or when you need students to have eyes on you and to look at you and to not be on their device, right? 100%. But for this task, you need to take a definitive position. Do not be wishy-washy. Well, I kind of agree with this and I kind of agree with that. The reason being is that it's going to be very difficult for you to write if you've taken 2 positions. So you need to take a position. Now, here is the piece that the test gives you. So you have the argumentative prompt, and then you have discuss the extent to which you agree or disagree with this opinion. All right. So discuss the extent which you agree or disagree. And then we have this, support your views with specific reasons and opinions for your own experience, from your own experiences. Now, here's the key. Normally, I tell people to write in third person. I tell people who are doing essay exams to avoid first person narrative. The difference, first person narrative, just in case you don't know, is I, me, we. Okay. Third person narrative is them, they, them, he, she. Okay. That's third person. Normally, when we write, especially academically, we want to stick to third person. It just helps it to be more scholarly. However, on the Praxis core, in their study companion, they use first person narrative. So because they have modeled that and shown that that's how you get a good grade, I'm going to do that for this particular, just this argumentative prompt. But for most essays, I tell you to avoid first person narrative. Now, one narrative that you should avoid for sure is second person, and that is you. When we explain things like, you can use technology in the classroom to engage students. The problem with that is when you use you shift your perspective, you shift your narrative, and it's usually dinged as a grammar issue, as a language issue. Because we're going to be using first person, we want to make sure we're using first person throughout the entire essay. All right. So we want to just say no to second person narrative. And when we proof our argumentative essays or your general knowledge essay, you want to proof for the terms you and your. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when we explain things, we use the you. If you're explaining to your friend, you say, yeah, it's great. You can do this and you can do that. And I really like this because you can do this. The problem is that doesn't translate in a scholarly article or a scholarly piece of work. So avoid you at all costs and proofread for it. And if you see it, take it out. All right, so we have our argumentative prompt right here. The use of technological devices should be banned. A very definitive position that this person has taken, and we have decided to disagree. All right. I think for this, even if you're one of those people who don't like cell phones in the classroom, and I get it, I was a teacher, I understand. I think that you're going to find more examples about how to use them more in an engaging way. And you're going to be able to use those examples a little bit better than you would if you agreed with this prompt. But if you agree with this prompt and you can write to it, do it. My thing is choose the position that you can write to best because you only have 30 minutes. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've defined my position. I disagree. They should not be banned. And my thesis statement, I am going to make my thesis statement. This is the first thing I do is going to be technological devices should not be banned in the classroom because they offer many advantages. It is and we could even take out many. We could just say offer advantages. If we say many, sometimes we run in, let me just go ahead. If we say many, sometimes we run into the problem of having to list many. And if we're only in 30 minutes, we only have 30 minutes, we're going to maybe want to take out many and just say advantages, because then you could list like 2 and that's totally fine. Okay. So I've got my thesis statement. The thesis statement will eventually be the last sentence of my first paragraph. Now, some people do this differently. In fact, it even looks differently in the Praxis study companion. However, if I'm grading your essay and I'm reading it and you want to make life easy on me, I'm going to see your first paragraph and boom, your thesis statement's going to be the last sentence of the first paragraph. And then you're going to move into your details. And right then I'm going to be able to locate your position, which is one of the things that you have to do for this essay. And I'm also going to be able to understand exactly where you're coming from and it's thoroughly stated. Make it easy on the reader. Think like a test maker, not a test taker. Okay, so I've got my thesis statement. I'm going to kind of stay away from many. I'm going to just say advantages so that I don't, ruin my day by having to list 100 million advantages. And now I'm going to go into my detailed paragraphs here. So the way I map my argumentative essay for the Praxis core is that the first detail paragraph is going to be mainly about what are the advantages. Okay, I'm just going to talk about the advantages. So let me just list them really quickly. And I would do this very quickly if I were testing. The first advantage is going to be they offer, engagement. Students are engaged when they're on their devices. They offer, differentiated instruction. Again, I apologize for my sloppy handwriting. I'm working on it. Differentiated instruction. I might just, abbreviate that. Also, they can be used for cooperative or collaborative learning. Okay, right there. I could make 3 or 4 to 5 sentences out of just those things. Now, remember, we're going to need specific details, but this will kind of help us to organize. With engagement, let's think of a specific detail there. Let's see. Phones can be used for polling. Don't students use the phones to poll? You can do a classroom poll. So we can do polling. Also, for differentiated instruction, we could talk about students could use their devices to, look things up rather than in a book. They could use them for the internet or something like that. Internet. And with collaborative learning, students can use their devices to, let's just say, and I may not use all of these in my essay, but collaborative learning, they might be able to do with their laptops, they could do writing. They could write together, using Google Docs or something like that, okay? Now, I may not use all of those. I may get started and I may decide that I don't need the collaborative learning piece and that engagement and differentiated instruction is just fine. You don't have to use all of these. These are just ideas to get on paper so that you can pull from them and use them in your essay. Now, the second detail paragraph, I like to make this my personal experience. Okay, because it does say in the directions to use personal experience. So I might say something like, I remember I was in college and my college professor used tech. Now, this is good because it's a specific example, like I'm giving you an actual personal detail. So that hits that details piece in the rubric. So my professor used tech, and I remember that some students who normally wouldn't participate did participate when tech was used. They wouldn't raise their hand to speak, out in front of the class because they were shy, but they did use tech. So I'm just going to put shy students participated. And that goes along with the differentiated instruction and engagement. I'll just hit that there. Notice I am quick. We're not writing a dissertation on this map. We are just simply just kind of putting some things down so we can map our essay and figure that out, okay? All right, now that I've mapped, I'm going to type my details paragraph. Now, just a quick thing about this presentation today. This has a lot of text on it, and I know that, but the nature of this presentation has to, because I'm teaching you how to write an essay. But I'm going to show you, this is a big details paragraph because I wanted to show you all the things, but you can essentially cut this details paragraph in half and still get the grade that you need to get, okay? Still get the points. So let me just go through this. Contrary to the belief that using technological devices in the classroom is distracting to students, there are many advantages to using these devices. I might just say there are advantages. Many advantages, again, lock me in, but that's okay. If it's many advantages, that's fine. The use of technology in the classroom can foster student collaboration. Didn't I say that? Didn't I say that in my map? Collaborative learning, okay? Can foster collaboration, blah, blah, blah. Then I have here, for instance, here comes my specific detail. I didn't just say, oh, it fosters collaboration. Collaboration is abstract. That's telling me something. I need you to show me, what does collaboration look like? Well, I'm going to show you. For instance, students can collaborate to create a podcast. That's specific, using a variety of cloud-based tools. I could have also said they can collaborate on Google Docs and writing, anything like that. In addition, using technological devices in the classroom can increase student engagement. Another piece in my map, okay? For example, here comes my specific example again. Students can use their laptops or iPads to create infographics that explain complex ideas. Perfect. Infographics, I can see that. I know what that looks like. These activities allow students to be creative and use their critical thinking skills. Well, those are the good words, right? I always talk about good words in education, and creativity and critical thinking skills are the things that we want to increase in our students. The use of technological devices in the classroom can drive both collaborative learning and student engagement, ultimately providing students with new ways to interact with each other and the classroom content. Great. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, oh my God, how did she come up with all of this? Well, the first thing I did was I mapped my essay and I stayed focused. And all I did was take my map, I turned it into classroom can foster collaboration. There's my collaboration. Then I have a specific detail. So I have my overarching, then specific detail. Then I have my other overarching statement, then my specific detail. So let me just use a different color here. I'm going to use yellow. So for my overarching details were collaboration and engagement right here. And my purple is cloud-based tools, podcast, use their laptops and iPads for infographics, increasing critical thinking. So we have the two overarching details, and then we have that specific details underneath. Now, I could have taken off engagement completely. I could have done this, and bear with me here. Contrary to the belief, yada, 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 the use of technology in the classroom can foster student collaboration by allowing students to share work. For instance, students can collaborate to create a podcast using a variety of cloud-based tools. You could also say students could also use Google Docs to collaborate on writing assignments. And then you could jump right down to the use of technological devices enhances collaboration in the classroom, and keep it as simple as that. I just give you a few things to use here, but you could essentially take a piece of this out and just do collaboration and still be okay. All right. Remember, we're not trying to prove anything here. We're just trying to pass. Okay. Now we have the second details paragraph. Remember, that was my personal experience. And then we say here, in college, I was fortunate enough to have a professor who incorporated the use of technological devices in almost every lesson. So I'm taking my position again, why they should not be banned, because I was fortunate enough to have a professor who used it. Then we have, she encouraged us to use our laptops and cell phones in class for various activities. Various activities is not specific enough. I'm going to need to dig down a little deeper and get those specific details. And I do. Let me go back to my little coding system here. So we have technological devices. She encouraged us to use our laptops and cell phones for various activities. Okay, that's going to be your general. And then we get into specific. We frequently used our smartphones for online polling and crowdsourcing. Now we're getting specific. I can see students taking out their devices and typing in, what they agree with or what they don't agree with, or crowdsourcing. And then it said, which led to rich classroom discussion. Then I can visualize people discussing all the different things they're talking about using their smartphones. Okay. And this increased engagement. Even the shy students, remember I put that in my thing, and this would probably be considered a specific detail. Even the shy students who often did not take part in class activities participated. I can kind of visualize a kid or a college student who is like, I don't know if I want to participate. And then they are allowed to use their cell phones and they feel more comfortable doing that. So that's a good specific detail. And then we have, because the professor allowed us to use technology in the classroom, we were engaged. So that's going to be more of your general. We were engaged and able to collaborate with other classmates. So we went back out into general. Rather than viewing technology as a distraction, professors can take advantage of the resource and use it effectively in the classroom. Here's my little wrap-up sentence. I have two of them. I have it here, And then let's just go back to the first detail paragraph. And I have it here. The use of technological devices, it's right here, can drive both collaborative learning and student engagement. You could even put a period after student engagement and not do that. Ultimately providing students, you don't have to get all wordy. You could put a period there and move on with your life, okay? So that's how I would structure this. So we have the argumentative essay. Let's go back to our steps. We did our thesis. We disagree. It should not be banned. Technological devices should not be banned, okay? Then we mapped, we put our little details in there. Then we wrote our detailed body paragraphs, 2 of them. Now we need to proof our details. So I would go through and I would read this detail paragraph, making sure everything's cool. I might take out many advantages, right? I might take that out because I only listed one thing and one thing is not many. So take that out. Maybe, for example, I had something like where it said, for instance, instead of saying students can collaborate, maybe I said something like you can collaborate with your students. And as I was proofing, I saw that you, and I took it out and turned it into students instead of you. Okay, so make sure you're on the lookout for that. All right, so I proof all that, I proof all this, and now I have 2 awesome detailed paragraphs. They are rich with examples. They are grammatically correct. They have a flow and a focus, and I've only stuck to my thesis. I have not gone off into la la land and tried to talk about 100 other things. I've only talked about this particular thing. Don't go off. Don't go off. Stay right here. You guys stay right here with me, okay? So we proofed, we're good. Now we're gonna write the intro. Sometimes the intro is really, really hard to do. So you're going to need to use the prompt. Now, on the exam and in the study companion, which is the document that Praxis uses to show what's on the test, it's the blueprint, it's the specifications, and I'll pull it up before the end of this webinar so you can take a look at it. They have examples that use first-person narrative. That's why I'm using it here, okay? So it says, I disagree with the ideas that the use of technological devices in the classroom should be banned. Right away, I took a position. I took the position. I disagree with the use of tech, that they should be banned. These devices are innovative tools that can be used to positively affect student learning. All right, another little general statement. It's fine. This is the intro. It's supposed to be general. Then I have sentence 3. Technological devices should not be banned in the classroom because they offer many advantages. There is my thesis statement. Okay. You may want to proof that really quickly. It's only 3 sentences. It's totally fine that it's only 3 sentences because it's just an intro. Your details should be longer. They should be like 5 sentences to 7, although there is no limit. There is no definitive word count. People ask me, how many words do I have to write? They don't state that. You have to clearly convey your position and using specific details with grammatically correct and a command of the language in order to pass this. They don't say it has to be 5 paragraphs. They don't say it has to be 2 paragraphs. It just has to cover what you're trying to cover. And then we write the conclusion, which is going to sound a lot like the intro. I do not agree with the claim that the use of technological devices in the classroom should be banned. Technological devices do not distract students. Rather, these devices can be used to encourage collaboration and improve student engagement. Notice that I talked about this in both my details paragraphs. Those were my things that I talked about in my details paragraph. You know, I put that as yellow, and yellow is my code for specifics. And those were not. Let's just make green. Green is the connection from my detail paragraphs to my conclusion. Don't start being specific in the conclusion. Just restate a little bit of what you said. And then educators should embrace technology and use it as a resource to help students in their class succeed. Now, here's the ticket. This last part here is a call to action or a very definitive, you know, kind of what you think teachers should do. And it says educators should embrace technology and use it as a resource to help their students. You're just now supporting your position and you're saying, teachers, you should do this. It's almost a call to action, but it certainly is definitely taking the position, okay? And then you're done. Now, my slides are all segmented out, but you are going to write this, in your little area. So what you're going to want to do is, and let me just, it's going to be hard for me to show you on the screen, so I'm not going to do that because it's just going to be confusing. But basically, you're going to type your thesis statement, and then you're going to start typing your details. And when it's time to write your intro, just put your cursor up in front of your thesis and type your intro. And then when it's time to write your conclusion, just take your cursor all the way to the end and write your conclusion. Okay, so it's going to go intro, detail 1, detail 2, conclusion. All right. Now, the final step, if you have time, and hopefully you do, you're going to want to proof from top to bottom. Read it one time through. You may find a spelling error. You may find something you got to do, which is totally fine. But I think it's important that you proof one time through, even though you already proofed your details. Do not add anything. Please don't add anything. It could take you from a passing essay to a non-passing essay. Okay. So don't add anything. All right. So that's the steps to the argumentative. Now what I'm going to do is go into the chat and into our Facebook Live session as well, and just take a look and just see if I can answer some questions for you guys. I'm going to pull up YouTube as well. Nobody's chatting in YouTube at the moment, but maybe some of these questions go in there. So let me just open the chat. Okay, so we have some questions here. How long does it take for the scores to be submitted? For the writing, sometimes it takes a couple of weeks. It all just depends on how backed up they are. For the general knowledge, it can take anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks. For the Praxis, it's anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, depending on how long and how backed up they are. Will we have access to this recorded? Yes, everybody will have access to this recording. You will get the replay link in an email. You will get the handouts again in an email. You will get my presentation in an email with notes and without notes. So you will gain access to every single thing we're talking about here today. If you're on Facebook and you want access, all you have to do is use the link in the description. Let me go over here to Facebook really quick. How many kinds of essays are there? This is from Valbona. Sorry if I murdered your name. There are 2 essays for the Praxis core. There's an argumentative and a source-based. We just finished the argumentative. I'm about to start the source-based, and we'll talk about that in a second. For the general knowledge, you write 1 essay and you only have 1 prompt to go with. And sometimes it's an advantages versus disadvantages, and sometimes it's a claim-based prompt. We just did a bunch of webinars on this. I just did one last week. We have tons of video on those 2 essays. I highly recommend our playlist for that. I will link everything up so you can look at that. But for general knowledge, it's going to be a little different than this. So the thesis statement should be the last sentence in the first detailed paragraph. No. The thesis statement is the last sentence in the introductory paragraph. If I said the last sentence in the detail, I misspoke. Sorry about that. The thesis statement should be the last sentence of the first paragraph, because ideally what should happen is, let me just go to my, my thing here. Okay, let's say that this is our intro, right? Let me just move this out of the way. Okay, let's say that this is our intro. And I'm the reader, I'm the grader of the essay, okay? This is your essay, you just submitted it to me, okay? And it says, I disagree with the idea that the use of technological devices in the classroom should be banned. These devices are innovative tools that can be used to positively affect student learning. Boom, here's my thesis. Technological devices should not be banned in the classroom because they offer advantages. I now, the reader, the grader of the essay, know that that's your thesis, and then you move right into the details. Sorry about that. Now I tell you the advantages, not only in a general sense, but in a personal sense, where I give you specifics. Now, for the general knowledge, you could do the same thing. I would probably leave out I just in case. But if you wrote this essay for the general knowledge, you would probably be just fine. If you wrote this essay, you would probably get a 4, 2 4s. You need an 8 on the general knowledge. And again, we've already done that. I'm focusing on Praxis today for people who are tuning into Praxis. We have tons of videos on the general knowledge, and you can always email us questions on that. Okay. Why sometimes do we write advantages and disadvantages and pros and details? So Valbona, that is the general knowledge exam, and we have several videos about the advantages and disadvantages. So I'll point you in that direction when we're done. Let me just check my Zoom chat really quick. Thank you. Hope this time I'll pass. Got a 7 last time. Okay. Do we need 2 body paragraphs in the GK essay? Or 2 body paragraphs anywhere? Remember what I said, guys. They do not tell you in the specs or in the rubric how many paragraphs it's supposed to be. They don't say this should be 4 paragraphs. This should be 5 paragraphs. This should be 1,300 words. They don't say that. That's not what they want you to focus on. Instead, you should be focusing on the continuity and the flow of your essay, the support for your thesis. Everything you write about should support that thesis, and it should be clear, coherent, and you should have a definitive intro, definitive conclusion, and definitive details. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5. You could write an 18-paragraph essay. I do not recommend that, but nowhere does it say what you should how many words, how many paragraphs. So try to get that out of your head. We do a 4-paragraph essay. I like it, but I just did a webinar last week that's available where I showed you how to do only a 3-paragraph. That would work. Okay, so I'll link all of that up. Don't worry. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll throw it in the description later. But we have talked about the 3-paragraph essay that you could use to pass. But today we're talking about this, okay? All right, now I want to go to the source-based essay. Now, a lot of people freak out about the source-based essay. Now, this is specific to Praxis. Again, still a great writing exercise for GK, and I highly recommend doing it. But let me just close my chat because I get distracted. But the source-based essay is very specific to the Praxis Core exam, Praxis Core writing. Now, for the source-based essay, you are, let me just darken my pen here. It's 2 humans, no computer, okay? And again, if they agree within 1 point, your essay is scored and you move on with your life, okay? If they don't agree within 1 point, excuse me, another human is brought in to be the tiebreaker, okay? The thing that you should know about this is that it's a very unbiased way to grade essays. It costs more money to do it this way, and FTCE does not do it this way. FTCE only gives you 2 graders, and whether they agree or disagree isn't the point. They just take the score. But for Praxis, they bring in this tiebreaker here because there's too much discrepancy between grader 1 and grader 2, and they want to make sure that it's fair and unbiased. So they bring in that 3rd grader, and I think that's great. So all you have to do is think about your organization and all of that, and you should be good. But it's good to know who's grading it. Again, the steps to the source-based essay are the same. You're going to go back to a lighter color. There we go. You're going to type your thesis statement. And for the source-based essay, your thesis statement is going to be so easy. You can actually kind of memorize the way you're going to write your thesis statement, and all you have to do is plug in the topic, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. You're going to map your essay, just like we talked about before. You're going to write your detail paragraphs, like we said before. Then you're going to proof your details, your body paragraphs. Then you're going to write your intro, then you're going to write your conclusion, and then you'll proofread the entire essay. So the same steps. This writing method really helps just to stay on track and to make sure you have enough time. However, if you're like, I don't like it this way, totally fine. You don't have to do it this way. You can modify this, but I do recommend practicing. Okay, definitely practice. And when you receive this, this handout or these presentations, you've already received the writing prompts, so you can get those. But I would, write to these prompts when you're done. I know I already wrote it, but you try to do it with different ideas, and that'll really help you there. Okay. All right. So this is what the source-based prompt is going to look like in the Praxis writing exam. Okay. So we've got artificial intelligence is progressing rapidly, AI. Okay, let me just make sure. So we're talking about artificial intelligence. While science fiction often portrays AI as robots with human-like characteristics, AI can encompass anything from Google's search algorithms to autonomous weapons. Many people believe that AI is not malevolent because it is not likely to exhibit human emotions, okay, saying that it's a bad thing. Many people do not believe AI is a bad thing. However, others fear that AI will become conscious and destroy us. I mean, there's a lot of people who believe that, and it could happen, or it will land in the wrong hands and be used for evil purposes. Both of the following sources address whether or not AI could be harmful in our society. So here's what happens. They give you this long kind of narrative about AI or anything. It could be about cell phones. It could be about giving criminals the right to vote, giving ex-felons the right to vote. I've seen prompts that have to do with whether dress codes should be used in school. It's some sort of issue. And then they give you kind of a synopsis of the issue. Then below that will be your directions. What is your task? Just like in the argumentative, we had that task in the bottom. And here's your task. Read the two passages carefully, which I'm going to show you in a second, and write an essay in which you identify the most important concerns regarding this issue. Explain why they are important. Your essay must draw on information from both sources. In addition, you may draw on your own experiences, observations, or reading. Be sure to cite both sources. Now, some people think that this is harder than the argumentative essay. I disagree. Now, you're going to get something like this, and I'm not going to read this to you. Don't worry. You definitely don't want that. But this is what the sources are going to look like. Basically, you have two people. Let me switch my color here. You have this person and this person, okay? And they're both, just do that, oops. And they're both talking about AI. Immediately, I want to find out who agrees and who disagrees, or what the difference between the two are. We have two people and they are going to disagree. Okay. So I want to figure out who says yay and who says nay. A great way to do that is to look at the title. Notice the title for this person. And again, you may have to zoom in here. Let's zoom in. The title for this person says, is artificial intelligence dangerous? 6 AI risks everyone should know about. So it sounds like Mar B in 2018 from this Forbes magazine article probably thinks, please hold. I'm recording this on another camera just in case. I have to keep hitting it every time. Mar B thinks that AI is risky. So Mar B right here, Mar is the last name, B is the first initial of the first. This is an APA formatting. You don't need to know all that. I'm just telling you that. You don't have to have like a degree in APA formatting. But he is going to talk about the risks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here and look at the last sentence just to give me an idea. And it says, any powerful technology can be misused. Unfortunately, as our AI capabilities expand, we will also see it being used for dangerous, malicious purposes. So this guy is anti-AI. So I'm going to put anti-AI there. Okay. Now let's go over here to the other one. Most likely, and this happens on the exam, the other person is going to disagree, or it's going to be a differing opinion. This is from the MIT Technology Review in 2018. And in the title, it says AI, a force for good. Okay, so now we know MIT thinks AI is good, and this particular article is going to support it. Now, the reason why this source-based writing assignment is so awesome is because you have all of this information to reword and use. You don't have to come up with anything on your own. With the argumentative essay, you have to come up with personal experiences. You have to figure out what's going on. You have to make a definitive position and all that. For this, all you're doing is summarizing this person's points, and you're summarizing this person's point. And the 4-paragraph essay lends itself very well to this because your intro is going to be, we'll talk about it, but you're going to use a little bit for your intro when it's time. You're going to use this paragraph here to help you write your intro, that first kind of that first piece of the source-based prompt where they introduce the topic at hand. All you have to do is reword this, and it's a great intro. Do not copy it. We don't want to copy. We want to reword and use it, use different words. Maybe instead of saying anything from Google's search algorithms, maybe you say Facebook's data collection or something like that, to change it up. But all you have to do is change this up, and that's a good intro. We'll get to that when we write our intro. All right, so step 1, define our thesis. Identify the argument. This is how you're going to do it. And with this, you can have a canned thesis statement ready to go for any source-based essay. Here's my thesis statement. Artificial intelligence is seen both as an opportunity and as a threat. If this were dress codes, it could be dress codes in school are seen as both discriminatory and necessary. If it's cell phones in schools, it could be cell phone use in schools can be both beneficial and detrimental to the classroom. Do you see how all I do is take the topic that we're talking about, and then I say it's a little of this and it's a little of that. That's it. That's all you have to do with your thesis. And you can apply that to anything that you need to for this particular prompt and for others, okay? All right, so now we are going to map. Now, I'm not going to get into this too much because I have to go in here and read all of this. But what you're going to want to do is for your map, for your first detailed paragraph, you are going to come up with all the things that this person is saying right here. You're going to pull some of the most important information. You can see that he says here, AI programmed to do something dangerous in terms of autonomous weapons we have here. We have, might have with an individual government. Once deployed, they would likely be difficult to dismantle. Those are important things to think about here. Since machines can collect, track, and analyze everything about you, it's very possible for those machines to use it against you. So this is the data, tracking and data. He also goes into talk specifically about China's social credit system. And that's where they kind of give you a score on what you're doing. It's pretty invasive. They, do you smoke? He puts it here. Have you been seen smoking? Do you play too many video games? And it kind of gives you a social score based on your AI score. So that could be something that would be detrimental. So those are things that I might put in my map. So let's do that. I read it and I say, okay, first thing I want to do is remember, who is this? It is Mar 2018. So I'm going to make this person Mar 2018. And that's how I'm going to cite him or her. That's APA. You can also just say Mar at the end, and I'm going to show you how that looks like. But Mar 2018 basically says that AI is bad. Autonomous weapons, autonomous weapons. Look, if I spelled it incorrectly, don't hate. It's just the way it is. I'm a terrible speller. AI, autonomous weapons, also data collection, social score. Now remember, I can still reference my my thing here. I don't have to write down every detail. I just want to kind of figure out what I'm going to talk about, because I can then go back into this source and use specific details. So you don't have to get too specific in your mapping session here, okay? Now, detail paragraph 2 is going to be MIT. You can abbreviate MIT 2018. I am so sorry. My handwriting, you guys. I promise to get better. MIT 2018. And in this case, let's go and check out what MIT says. So MIT is going to be that it's good. We have AI has democratized many services. It has the capability to predict and prevent many kinds of risks. So he's saying it's good. He talks about finance, offers opportunity for undeserved segments of the population. All right. So it helps people who normally can't get financing, get financing. How? Track their credit history. AI can understand patterns based on apps people use and help them build their credit. Very good. AI programs can improve student outcomes. This is good because we're educators. So student outcomes, it can be used in student homework programs to respond and adjust to learning needs. We see that a lot as teachers. If you answer the questions correctly, it bumps the complexity of the question. So that's always good. Then we have it in hospitals. Doctors can see up to 200 patients a day. They need to kind of track them and use their data to help in terms of their pre-diagnosis, post-hospitalization, all of that. And then we have this last thing here. AI isn't going to rise up and take over the world. It learns what we teach it, and we're teaching it that we want our future, what we want our future to look like: flexible, efficient, and highly productive. Okay, cool. So let me just map that out right here. He talks about hospitals. He talks about credit and finance. And he talks about education. Okay. So that's it. I've read it. I know you don't even have to read the whole thing. Notice how I kind of skimmed through it. If you sit there and try to read that whole thing, that's going to take up valuable time. Go in there, pull out those words. You already know that one guy isn't for it. He doesn't, or she doesn't like AI, and MIT likes AI. All you got to do is grab some specific details from there. You do not have to read it from top to bottom. Okay. All right. So now we have type the details. Now, I just want to go through this quickly so you understand how I cite it and everything else, okay? Right away, I get to the point. Don't start beating around the bush. In his article, Is Artificial Intelligence Dangerous? Marr, 2018, argues that AI poses many dangers to our society. We know that. We could get that from the title, and we could get that from the last sentence. Not only is there a concern that autonomous weapons might gain a mind of their own, and put it in quotes if you took it from him or her, and become unstoppable, extra cameras and facial recognition algorithms in countries such as China are already tracking people's every move. As the author states, and then I put it in quotes, when Big Brother is watching you and then making decisions based on that intel, it is not only an invasion of privacy, it can quickly turn into social oppression. Notice I grabbed an entire quote here, which just bulked my essay up. That's his words, not mine. They said to quote directly from the article. I took the main points. I said it poses a threat to our society. And I mentioned autonomous weapons and the China thing. And then I wrapped it up with a kind of an impactful quote that kind of hits you at the end. And then what did I do? I cited him right here, Marr, 2018. You got to cite. All you do, last name, comma, date, and you're good. They did, in this particular part here, I say in his article, and then I name the article and I put it in quotes. The reason why I put it in quotes, and I know people ask, should it be in quotes or not? If you have the option to italicize, I personally like to italicize titles of things, but you may not have that option. It depends on what program they're using. So quotes will work as well if you're doing a title, but also italicize works. You're not going to get marked off if you use one or the other, but use one or the other. Don't italicize and quote, use one or the other. And notice I've got him quoted here. I've got him cited just like it says in the test specifications. Okay. Now let's go to detail paragraph 2, which is the third paragraph. In an imposing view outlined in the article, and then I name the article by MIT, AI has the capability to predict and prevent many kinds of risks, thus improving day-to-day life. That was a direct quote. Its benefits can already be seen in industries such as finance, education, and healthcare. That came directly from the article. I did not make that up. It was said to me from MIT. In finance, the use of AI, and right here, I just summed up what he said about finance. Then I go in education, AI programs can be used to provide individualized needs. Summed it up from his words, or it's not him, it's MIT as a collective. Additionally, AI can be used in hospitals to collect information. Those are the main points that the author talked about. So that's really important. And then at the end, I do another quote. It learns what we teach it, and we're teaching it that we want our future, what we want our future to look like: flexible, efficient, and highly productive. And then I quote, or then I cite MIT Technology Review 2018. That's it. Didn't make any of that up. Didn't have to come up with that myself. Basically took what the MIT article wrote and put it in my own words. That's why the source-based essay, for me, like in my opinion, is 10 times easier than the argumentative, because you don't have to make anything up. It's all right there. You just reword it and cite. That's it. And they're assessing your ability, basically, to take research and make, and present it, because that's what you're going to have to do as a teacher. It's actually a really good writing task. I know you don't like it because it's hard, but I really like this essay task because I think it's fair. And I think that it really provides, especially for ELs, people whose first language is not English, this can help you. I think this helps to reduce the bias because you have a lot of information to pull from. And I like it. I think it's a great task. All right, step 4, we're going to proof top to bottom. I'm not going to do that now, but I would start here and read all the way down. I will not add anything. I will not try to reword anything. I'm just looking for any problems and fixing them. Same thing, I'm going to proof the second details paragraph where I go over the MIT article, make sure it's cited and all of that. And then I'm going to write my intro. Now, the intro is going to come from this piece up here when we talked about the topic, when they put the topic in front of you. Okay, so let's go in. Sorry about that. Here's the intro. Artificial intelligence is a technology that has gained a lot of attention in our society and has become a topic of heavy debate. You can that as well. It could be dress code policies have become a topic of debate among educators. Some believe that AI can potentially have negative effects. Some believe dress codes negatively affect students of color and girls. Even more people fear that it will fall into the wrong hands and destroy the world. Destroy the world. If this were dress codes or any other thing, I could say other people feel that dress codes are necessary in order to keep the school appropriate, or whatever you want to say. And then we have here, artificial intelligence is seen both as an opportunity and a threat. If this were dress codes or anything else, I could say dress code policies are seen as both a necessity and discriminatory in schools. Or I would say both necessary and discriminatory in schools. And then I would go into my detail paragraphs. All right, and then I'm going to write the conclusion right after I write the introduction, which is going to feel repetitive, but it's not going to read repetitive, because when the reader gets it, I'm going to have my intro, then my detail paragraphs, then my conclusion. But it just makes it so much easier to write this way if you write the intro and the conclusion together. And we have the issue on whether or not AI is good or bad for our society will continue to be disputed by many. If this were dress code, I could say dress code policies, whether they're good or detrimental, will continue to be debated among educators. It is no question that AI can bring many advantages to our society. However, and I would probably take out our, That I would proof for that and take out our and just say to society, because our just switched to first person. And I wrote this entire essay in third person. And so that's a good non-example. That's a good issue. We want to take that out because we just switched perspectives and point of view. We don't want to do that. We want to maintain a consistent point of view. However, it has potential to cause a lot of damage as well. More research will need to be done in order to determine whether or not AI can pose a serious threat to our society. If this were dress code policies, more research needs to be done on whether or not dress code policies are detrimental or beneficial to schools. It could be anything. This conclusion can be adapted to literally any main issue that you're discussing in any essay task. So I highly recommend you kind of figure out how you're going to write your conclusion and get it down in a formula. Just plug and play. That's all you have to do with our formulas. Just figure out what's going on in your specific prompt and plug it in here. Okay. And then your final step is going to be step 7. And that's to proof from top to bottom. Again, we are not adding anything. We are not, oh, I forgot this one thing. No. If you forgot it, that's good. Leave it out. When we talk about essays, less is more, okay? Less is more. So let me stop sharing here because that brings us to the end, because I wrote both essays there for you. Let me go ahead and take some questions in the chat on Zoom. I'll also go to Facebook and YouTube as well. So just give me 1 second. Where's my chat? There we are. There's my chat. Looks like we had a couple of people in the Q&A, and Nicole has been answering in the Q&A. Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to go into the main chat here and just see if I can answer any questions here. Let's start up here. For the GK, sometimes we are asked to write advantages and disadvantages. Okay, I already talked about that. We have that. Let's see here. Thanks. This is great. How is the Praxis writing scored as a whole with the essays and the multiple choice? Okay, that's the mystery of the century, Jennifer Jenkins. They use a method to combine the two scores, and I have looked high and low to figure out the algorithm and how they do that, and I have not been able to figure that out. What you need to know is that it is a combined score, and you can bank points on the essay and you can bank points on the multiple choice, and they combine them together. It's good news for you though, because that means that you have a little cushion. If you're a good writer and you're not so good at like the technical grammar, your writing score will help you. If you're better at the grammar, like the multiple choice, that will help you pull up your writing score. So, it is it's a logarithm, I should say, not an algorithm. They basically combine it, they come up with a scale score, and then they shoot it out, and that's your score. You can read the test documents for it, but it is a little complicated, but just know it's a combined score. Okay, let's go to Facebook. We got, thank you. Is this lengthy type going to be on GK? No, Deborah, we're talking about Praxis Core today. This is the Praxis Core essay, but you can use the methods that we use and apply that to any writing assignment, okay? Looks like Facebook's been taken care of. Let me go on over here to YouTube. Looks like YouTube doesn't have any questions, so that's good. And any other questions regarding the essay? So somebody asked, what score do we need for the essay on the GK? You need an 8 out of 12. You need a score of a 4 and a 4 from both graders. So if you're getting a 6, you're only getting a 3 and a 3 from both graders, and you need to do some work on the essay, okay? I hear people say, oh, I only missed it by 2 points. 2 points is actually a lot on an essay test. If you're missing by 2 points, you got some work to do on your essay, all right? And I say that because I'm honest. I'm not trying to discourage you. You can do it. It's just that we got to be real here. If you got a 6 out of 12, that's a 50%. You got some work to do. You got to practice. And you can use these prompts to practice. You could use these prompts to do, what are the advantages and disadvantages of artificial intelligence in the classroom? What are the advantages and disadvantages of using technological devices in the classroom? Adapt these prompts and turn them into something you can use for GK. For my Praxis people, they're ready to go for you to use. Okay. What times are allotted for the essay test? You only get 30 minutes for argumentative and 30 minutes for the source base. So you got to move quickly. For the GK, you get 50 minutes, 55, readings 50 or 55, and essays 50 or 55. My brain is short circuiting here, but either way, you got to move quickly. That's why I recommend mapping your essay. Yes, it's 50, 55 for the reading, 50 for the writing. You got to map that essay, organize your thoughts, and get going. Keep it succinct, keep it concise. Please do not go on and on. Notice that in the in my sentences, they're not overly complex. They are, you know, they're just pretty basic. Okay. All right. Let me see if anybody else. In the conclusion, is the thesis statement restated as the first sentence? It can be. If that's how you like to write, if that's how you were taught, it totally can be. It certainly helps. It certainly helps. Okay. Are there any more Praxis webinars? Well, Lo, I am so glad you asked me. Yes, there are going to be more Praxis webinars. Over the course of the next few weeks, we are going to be doing more Praxis webinars. We're going to be doing grammar, reading, and math. I've already done a math webinar, and I'm going to show you where to locate that, but we will be doing this and we'll announce it on our website. They're going to be sandwiched in between a couple other webinars. They're not going to be back to back. I have a pre-K 3 webinar coming up. Then I'm going to do another Praxis. Then I have another webinar coming up. Then I'm going to do 2 more Praxis. I'll show you in a second. So let me go ahead and share screen with you guys really quickly right here. So I can, let me open up. Give me 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. There we go. Okay. Let me do my desktop one. Okay. So if you go to navaed.com, you will see here that we have all of our upcoming online events. Now, we just did the Praxis Core essay webinar. Next week, on Wednesday, I usually do my webinars Wednesday from 3 to 4, 3 to 5-ish p.m. It's going to be early childhood education. If you're studying for the Praxis early childhood education, it will work, but this is specific for the FTCE. So we are doing pre-K 3 for the FTCE, but will be beneficial for Praxis. Then after the 24th, in between this one, we haven't put it up yet, in between July 8th, I am going to be doing either, I can't remember if it's Praxis grammar or Praxis reading. Then I do my PE webinar. This is for FTCE, but can be used for Praxis as well. After July 8th, I'll do 2 more Praxis webinars for math and reading or grammar and reading. So we will do all 4. We're doing the Praxis essay webinar today. We'll do a reading webinar, not next week, but the following week. Then we do our physical education, and then I'm going to do 2 more Praxis webinars. So they're split a little bit by weeks, but they will all be announced here very soon. We just have to put them up on the website. Now, if you're listening to this in the future and you're like, whoa, it's way past that, what she's talking about, all you have to do is go into webinars, into recorded, and you'll see that all of our pre-recorded webinars are right here. So we did elementary education, which was fantastic for both Praxis and FTCE. We have a Praxis Core math that we've already done that focuses on the probability and statistics section. It's also great for general knowledge math because general knowledge math has a heavy probability and statistics question. We did an ESOL webinar, which will help you with both the Praxis and the FTCE ESOL test. I just finished my SLLA. If you guys are into school leadership, I'm obsessed with the SLLA right now. I'm doing all kinds of products for that. We just finished our free webinar there. And I just did a general knowledge test last week. And that's right here. You can gain access to that. The pages all look similar. Notice that if you go here, there's a little video in there of me welcoming you. Hi there. And then you fill out this form. And when you do, you won't get a Zoom link. You get immediate access. You get taken to the webinar and you get the handouts and everything that goes through it. So if you're studying for multiple tests, I highly recommend going to this recorded tab up in our navaed.com. Super easy, navaed.com. Right here in webinars, go to recorded and you'll see the list here and you can grab that there. This webinar will end up on that list as well. So if you're listening in the future and you want this webinar, you get it right here. If you are on Facebook and you haven't been able to get the Zoom link and all that, it'll be available, don't worry. And of course, always check out our upcoming live events. Now, the other thing I want to bring to your attention is we have a lot of Praxis core products for the test. We have a ton of books. You can buy them separately by subtest if you only have to pass a certain subtest, or you can buy the full. If you need more than one subtest, buying the full is really, really helpful because you save money. You don't want to buy it separately, but you can just do the writing, you could just do the reading, or you could just do the math, or you can do the full digital book or the full physical book. The separated sections come in a digital form, so they're emailed to you right away and you can access them in your account, okay? But one thing we want to do is make sure that you know that these are separated and they're available digitally, but you can get the physical book and we send it to you and it gets to you within 2 or 3 days. We also have online courses that are amazing. They are super comprehensive. They have so many videos, so much practice, extra practice tests, videos for every single practice item in our book. And the book's 300 pages. So these are really helpful. I would definitely check out our digital courses. Those are awesome. And then we have some, inexpensive webinars here that you can check out if you need more support, but you don't want to spend $150. They are right here. Now, if you want to use our Praxis resources and you would like a discount code, all you have to do, and let me go over here. Sorry, I'm going to write it down. All you need to do is use, and this can go for our GK people. If you want to use this for your anybody on this webinar can use this. Praxis Web 20 is the offer code. Praxis Web 20. And I'll show you really quickly what that looks like when you check out, just so you know that when you check out, if you put, just share it. You can see here, I put in my Praxis Web 20. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Hang on, sorry guys. Sorry. There, desktop 2, boom. You guys should see my desktop too. You can see here that it's Praxis Web 20 and it took off 20%. So you can use that for our Praxis products. And if you are on here for general knowledge, you can do the same. Now, if you're looking for more practice for general knowledge in math and reading, you can get the Praxis stuff too. It certainly works, but it is specific for Praxis. And then finally, the last thing I want to bring to your attention, just make sure. The last thing I want to bring to your attention is our YouTube channel. I referenced our YouTube channel today. Some of you are asking about, grammar or more writing sessions. You guys, we have so many videos, free, that are like full courses that you could piece together and do this. So, piece it together. If you want to go free, if you want the paid, you can do the paid. Somebody's asking me, I've already purchased the Praxis writing. Is there any other material presented in the Praxis webinar that is not included? I would just stick with the Praxis writing, Lo. I wouldn't get any more. You've got a comprehensive thing there. Don't worry about that. But if you need more, hit us up in an email and we can help you out there. But you can see here, if you go into playlists, and you will see that I have essay here, this playlist here. Sorry, this is an ad. But in my playlist over here on the right, you can see I have GK essay, 59612 essay, how to use a source-based essay. This is Praxis Core. I've got all of these, we've got all of this information here. And, ACT writing, even if you got kids who need ACT, how to write a conclusion. So all of that works for you guys. So definitely check that out. All right. So if we don't have any other questions, let me just check my chats, make sure I'm not leaving anybody hanging. What score do we need on the Praxis Core essay? Okay, Sabrina's asking, what score do you need? It's a combined score with your writing. So it depends on what state you live in. You have to go to, I said I was going to do this for you guys too. Let me do one more thing. Let me do one more thing here. So if you Google Praxis Core Study companion. I say writing, but I'm going to pull up the writing, but you could do the whole study companion. Let's just go here. Praxis course study companion. Pull that up. There's a bunch of ads. This is just math, but let's see. Preparation materials, Praxis for test takers. Make sure it says ETS. ETS is the company that makes this test. Pearson makes GK. When you do, you select it. Most people are using the 5733. That's the new Praxis. Praxis changed. All they did was change the math. Everything else is the same, but the math has changed. I'll talk more about that when I do my math webinar. But let's just go to the writing. Let's go to 5723. Click this study companion here. When you do, it'll pull it up. Let me zoom in just a little bit. All right. I don't want to make you dizzy, but I do have to scroll for a second here. Here is the specs, the blueprint for the test. You can see that we have the combination of the grammar, and then we also have the writing portion. And it goes through everything you need to know. But then, oh my God, I apologize for scrolling. I hate it when people do this. Give me 1 second. Has example questions. We're going to go through grammar when I do my grammar webinar. Then it goes into your argumentative essay here, and it shows you what the score is. Now I had that in the PowerPoint, but it also has examples for you to take a look at. Now, doesn't follow exactly the way I did it. I like the 4-paragraph essay because it stays more organized, but certainly read this. You could read this. Don't worry about the 6. You probably want to be more in a 4, but that's okay. Shows you also what is not a good score. Gives you a little synopsis of what is not a good score. And then, it goes into source base. So there's also 2 writing prompts in this study companion. So you can use those as well. All right. So that's where you get that study companion. Highly recommend always looking at the study companion for any test you're taking. It's so important. This is the test. They give you what's on the test. Okay. All right. So it looks like everybody got what they needed. Do you have any FTCE English 5.9? I actually just did a video on that. I'm about to post it. English 5.9. I would deter you from taking the English 5.9. I would take the 612. The English 5.9 has the lowest pass rate of any FTCE exam. The writing has abysmal pass rates. And if you're trying to be a middle grades teacher, you can take the 612, and it has double the pass rate that the 5.9 has. I just finished a video. It should go up either tonight or tomorrow on that, where I break down that data. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. I showed you all of our YouTube videos. Subscribe, because as soon as I upload a video, you'll get notified. And it's really important. So my English 5.9 person, I go over some things about that, and you may want to check it out, because I kind of deter you from the 5.9 and push you towards the 612, and for good reason. Okay, here we go. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, good, guys. I'm so glad you found it helpful. Anyone else here? What is the difference in the 2 math Praxis exams? I'll go over more about the Praxis math changes when I do that webinar in the next couple of weeks. But the Praxis core math went from heavy emphasis on algebraic thinking and geometry to heavy emphasis on probability and stats. And the rationale is, as a teacher, you're not going to really be using a lot of coordinate planes and crazy geometric configurations and things like that. You're going to be using probability and statistics as you look over test scores and make decisions in your classroom. So they moved away from all that crazy algebra and moved over into how to look at data, how to understand probability. And I go over all that in that. All right, guys, I'm so glad you appreciated it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a bunch of you on today. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit us up at info@navaed.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. We're live every Tuesday for math. You can submit problems to our email account, and Jeremy Jasper will do them live for you on Tuesday. And I always do a live webinar every Wednesday. Next week is pre-K3. The following week will be Praxis. The week after that is PE. So many of you have been asking for PE. And then the following 2 weeks after that will be Praxis. So we're kind of it's going to be a little hodgepodgey, but that's all good. All right, everybody. I know this webinar is all about Praxis and have learned from watching you teach about essays. I would like to know if you will be doing any new videos on, I do plan to do on FTCE English 612 essay. I do plan to do more on English 612. So don't worry, sit tight. We're going to be doing some over the summer. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being teachers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your interest in our products. We appreciate you. Have